couple of seconds. All right. Good luck, everybody. I'm about to hit live.
All right.
Live.
Hey everyone, Jason Katzenbach here, and I hope everything is going great for you today because we have a fantastic Facebook Live for you video here where I have Karen Waksman on the line. And we also have a special guest, Steve Little, which I'm going to allow Karen to introduce him. But I had the privilege actually of hanging out with these two people just a couple weeks ago at something that we call Camp Maverick, which is a camp that helps entrepreneurs network together. It's a special group. And during that time that I was there, me and Karen had a really incredible talk. And I remember feeling very confident in my arguments, and she had rebuttals for everything. And what that is we're referring to is the whole power of getting into retail. Now, as we know, we see all these signs on the wall that, you see certain retail stores closing and everything, but there's other ones that are growing and exploding. And it's really understanding how to leverage those. And what I found out, which is totally shocking to me at how much it's making, are the results people are getting from taking their products from Amazon and getting them into these big box retailers. Now, if you're anything like me, when I first heard this topic, it gave me a headache because I looked at this and I'm like, oh, all of the process that you have to go through with this. How do you do this? How do I know if my product works for this? And those are the things that Karen actually is a 100%, in my opinion, the #1 expert on when it comes to this topic, from figuring out how to get your products, selling on Amazon. And it doesn't matter, correct me if I'm right, Karen, it doesn't matter if you just have one product or a bunch of products. You can work with anyone at that level, correct?
That's absolutely correct. I work with people at every stage of their business. I have people who haven't even finished their product, build it out correctly and get products in the stores without selling anywhere. And then people who are advanced stages who are making millions of dollars and just really want another distribution strategy and all sorts of in-betweens around that. So yes.
And so Karen, you've sold, from what I understand, you've sold millions of products to retailers. You started back nearly 18 years ago. You've taught tens of thousands of business owners. You've spoken at lots of events, conferences. You've partnered with retail chains. And I mean, I can just keep going. Like, you're the real deal when it comes to this topic. And what I'd like to help people really understand is what this opportunity is, because a lot of people, I think, look at this and it's intimidating and they don't know if they should focus on it. So what I'd like to cover on this call, if we could, is first of all, what this opportunity is that we're talking about getting into retail, who the opportunity is specifically for, and, the type of results that your students are getting, because I think that would really help drive home. And then we can just open up some Q&A, have some additional talk, but also hear from Steve Little, who has worked with you directly and got some incredible results. Now, before we continue, I just wanted to give people one notice that we're actually hosting another webinar tomorrow. And this is a private webinar that you have to register for. It's not a free video like this. And where it is if you go to go.amazing.com/workshop/retail MBA, and I'm going to bring that screen up here really quickly so that you can see it. I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see that now. So again, if you go to go.amazing.com workshop retail MBA, you can see that tomorrow. All you do when you come to this page, you simply click the save my spot. You then register for the webinar. This is a free webinar, but the thing is, we wanted to do this in a closed go-to webinar format because it's very focusing. We don't want people being distracted with Facebook ads and all those kind of things. And on this, you're going to learn about how to get a purchase order, what to say to chain stores and buyers to get them to buy, and some awesome tips and strategies. So you're going to want to be on this webinar. You can see that one day, 8 hours. So we will come back to that, but I want to drive that home, that the purpose of this Facebook Live today is really expose this opportunity for you. But then the webinar that we want you to register is where we're going to go in more depth to really help you to be able to implement this strategy. Now, with that being said, let's get back to here where I have to change my video. Pardon me.
It's a 90-minute webinar, and it's going to be really, really powerful. So I'm so excited to do this with you, Jason.
Yeah, we're the response. So I just need everyone to know too, you need to register now because we already have like the amount of people that are registered already. It's going to be a full call, so you're going to want to get on there. So right on, let's get right into this opportunity. And you know, the easiest way for me to explain it is you teach people, you show people how to go from taking their products from where it is now to getting into the big box retailers. But I think that does a total injustice for what this opportunity is. Could you expand on that more, Karen, so people can really get the scope of it?
Sure. So again, my name is Karen Waksman. I'm the founder of a company called Retail MBA. I help people get their products into retail chains like Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, Macy's, Kroger grocery store, whatever retailer you really want to get into, the big chain stores, the companies who can make you a lot of money. That's what I've been focused on. And again, I've taught over 10,000 business owners and companies over the last decade on how to get products into retail chains. Love this topic. I do my own event, all sorts of different things. I partner with retailers. So like Walmart and CVS, all these different organizations. So I'm constantly with these buyers. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of really cool stuff. And also, you know, I used to sell millions of units of products to retailers as a manufacturer's rep, which is a rep that sells products to retailers. So, yeah, I've been doing this so long, I kind of know what you guys are going to ask me. So I'm excited for today. I'm excited to talk about that. So the opportunity in general is just to help you figure out what it takes to get your products into stores. Basically, you know, I teach people in every product category how to make money. So if you have a food product or a consumer electronics product or a different type of product, baby products, supplements, whatever it is, and you're just trying to figure out how to get into that GNC retailer or again, Macy's or whatever it is, you know, there is a step-by-step formula, a paint by numbers approach that I teach people how to get in the stores. So that's what I do. Basically, I started teaching my information because I was looking for a training program or a system when I first got started in the business. I wanted to make money with retailers. I had sales experience in the past, and but something about retail was different. They had their own language. These buyers were, you know, wanted different things from me. And I had years of trial and error trying to figure out like what it takes to get that buyer to just convert into making more money. And so that's what I eventually figured out. And I ended up selling, again, millions of products to retailers. And then I started teaching that information initially just to help people out because I kept seeing that these product companies had these amazing products. They spent all this money developing whatever it is that they were doing, and they just didn't know how to get to that finish line. And I actually figured out that what I was doing was consistently working for different people with different products, different categories. And so, so that's how it started. I just started sharing as a side project. I did this for 2 years just from my heart, helping the little guy, you know, make money. And it turned into almost 10 years. I love it. It's so awesome. It's my most favorite thing to do, to see somebody who would never think they could get into Walmart or whatever, see their products on store shelves is probably one of the coolest things ever. So that's my jam.
You know, and it's interesting because one of the things that you told me about, which I guess I didn't realize, you know, whether you're into selling your physical products on Amazon, you have your own e-commerce store, you don't sell on Amazon or whatever it is, there's also, you know, I look at business from a very different perspective than other people do from an e-commerce perspective, especially. And there's some people that just love the idea of having their product in retail. Like it's just something they want to do. And so it doesn't matter what your reason is. If you want to be able to scale your business, if you want to be able to just do it because you love the idea of walking down a Target aisle and seeing your product down there, whatever the reason, the cool thing is Karen has a proven system for getting people into those stores. And what I'd love to talk about a little bit is, you know, first of all, you know, who the opportunity is for, because I just named two things, but I think that, you know, again, like we're missing out on a lot of people that could be sitting here saying, well, I don't know if this is really for me. So who is everyone this is for?
Well, before I get into that, I just want to mention one thing. So early on, when I realized that I was consistently getting products in stores, I was using kind of a system. I started testing this information on people who were super creative types, engineers, people who had no business selling, actually hated the concept of selling. I actually handed them this information. I said, go try this out. right? Like I wanted to see if I was right with my theories. And they started getting into all the big retail chains. So I know for a fact that retailers are very formulaic. The way that you sell products in the stores is incredibly formulaic. And I see it because I have worked with so many people over the years who never thought that they would sell anything to anybody, and it kind of converted for them. So who this information is for and who can be supported with the content we're going to be talking about on the webinar tomorrow is anyone with the physical products who's just really curious about retail chains. Some people, again, like you said, love going, they look at Walmart or Bed Bath & Beyond and they're like, God, my product would be so good there, you know, or it would be kind of cool if all my friends saw that my product's on store shelves. I mean, whatever it is, you guys kind of just think it's a cool thing. Another person would be just someone who, an Amazon seller, right? You guys are making money online. You know, maybe you're a little bit stressed about what's going on. You got a lot of competition going on. You know, you're getting booted by this person, that person. You feel a little wonky. You want another distribution strategy to just enhance your business. Or you just have a physical product and you want to make more money. That's another person I help. E-commerce sellers, you're selling online really well, maybe not, you know, other places, and you just want to grow distribution. A lot of inventors, people who wake up in the middle of the night, who come up with this idea and then they want to make more money with that idea. Also, a lot of Amazon sellers are actually creating new products and they're actually patenting those products because they need to, you know, deal with some of the offset with the competition and people knocking off their products. So they're starting to get trademarks and all these things. And so that audience has been pretty cool in my world as well. Reps and distributors, a lot of sales reps come to me, and distributors who want to grow their business and to chain stores. And then also the people who just want to make more money. So, you know, all those people, anyone with a physical product, those are kind of my jam.
So, you know, and I was going to go in a different order, but then I'm sitting here thinking, you know, you've got people on here that probably want to, okay, this all sounds great and everything, another opportunity, but what kind of results can I expect by following a system like that? Maybe we can hit on that because this is impressive to me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, at the end of the day, I have so many testimonials, right? I've been doing this almost 10 years now. I'm just teaching this stuff. But I can give you some examples, and we have a lot of video testimonials on that webinar page. You can take a look at some of those. So I'll give you some examples. So there's a guy named Oleg, cutie. He created, his initial product was just a keychain. It was literally just a keychain, and he put animals on it. And he came to me early on and he's like, I want to get into Walmart. Just show me how to get into Walmart. He's like that guy. He just wants to get into Walmart. I'm like, give me something cooler than a keychain. You know what I mean? It's like, help me out, brother. So I was like, okay, fine. Follow my strategies. He got his keychains into 3,800 Walmarts. Why? Because of various reasons, all 3,800 stores. So, but then it wasn't good enough for him, right? So he's like, yeah, you know, he feels good about himself. And then he was like, you know what? I want to sell something else. I have this dog pillow that I love. And it literally is a pillow that's a dog. You can check them out, Lily Brands or whatever, Lily P. And there's a video over there as well. But basically he creates this dog pillow and now he wants to take his second product into Walmart and he doesn't care about any other retailer. So some people have that one retailer that's like their dream retailer. So he decides to go to Walmart with the second product. The corporate buyer rejects the second product and he's like, you know, I'm going to get into Walmart, you know. That guy followed instructions because there's ways to sell to Walmart and some other retail chains on a local level for individual stores. So you don't have to sell to all 3,800 stores. You can sell to one Walmart. And you can sell to 128 Walmarts. Like there's ways to sell in a Walmart in a lot of different ways, a lot of things people don't know about. So he followed instructions, worked the back angle, got into one Walmart, got a product sold. He knew it would. He got a full floor display, and his kids are on the floor display. And now, from that experience, other retailers, other Walmart stores opened up accounts with him. He ended up getting into, all the regionals, and then he grew into corporate. So he won. You know, he got his second product in a Walmart. So that's one example of it. I have Amazon sellers. And again, these are all people that have, I have videos on all these guys, but there's a guy named Eugene and he bought my programs and stuff back in early 2012, I would say. And he was an Amazon seller, crushing it online, a lot of different products. And he just wanted to grow his sales. Basically what he said was it was a catalyst for him getting into thousands of retail chains. And not only that, he met his best friend on our private group, who's another Amazon seller. Now they live near each other. It's a whole thing, you know. So it turned into him getting into all these crazy distribution strategies just because he committed to expanding his business and his growth. So sometimes it's not just about just only focusing on retail. You just get a lot of opportunities simply because, you know, you do the work and you start, you know, people start knowing about you. You get kind of the cool factor, you know, this rep and this distributor shows up, they have opportunities. You start selling to corporations. I mean, it goes a lot of different ways once you start kind of looking like a real professional company. I can go on and on. I have, I don't know how many more you want me to tell you. I mean, I have so many.
Well, you know what? Like, and we can come back to these. So we've got Steve sitting on the line here, who, you know, is a great story in itself. So maybe you can switch to, you know, telling the story about Steve and why, you know, he's someone that, you know, I think everyone should listen to as well.
Oh, Steve is amazing. So Steve, I've known for years. And the one thing about Steve is that he is, and he'll tell you who he is, but essentially he, you know, is in mergers and acquisitions. And when you talk to him, you're like, who are you, man? Like, you know, he just knows what he's doing. And essentially he sells companies, helps people increase the valuation of their companies and so forth. One day we're talking and he was like, we were talking about retail and physical product companies because he helps a lot of those companies sell, the companies increase the valuation of their company and so forth. And he starts telling me these numbers of what happens when somebody adds a few retail accounts into, you know, into their business and how much more money their business, you know, are valued for essentially. And so anyways, he was just going on. So I'm like, I have to have you on this call. We need to talk about what it looks like for an Amazon seller to just increase the valuation of their company and so forth. So Steve, can you talk about who you are and why you know about selling companies? And also talk a little bit about our discussions about just retail in general and like why someone would want to consider selling products to stores and how that helps their business overall.
Right. Well, thanks, Karen, and thank you, Jason. Thank both of you for allowing me to be here. And sure, I'm happy to share what I can. And you know, I mean, who am I? I'm just another guy. I just happen to have been in M&A for about 40 years, so I've gotten pretty good at it. And really, you know, what we've seen emerge, frankly, based on what Amazing is doing, is this huge population of Amazon sellers that are out there doing incredible things, following a system, doing building terrific little businesses, so to speak. Not all of them little, I should say. And there's, in our business, what we focus on is really looking at value growth strategies. How do entrepreneurs develop valuation growth strategies that can carry the value of their business forward? When we did our interview the other day, I made the point that, look, in every business, there's going to be an exit. Whether you take it public, whether you sell it, whether you give it to your kids, or whether you keel over dead at your desk, there's going to be an exit. So you want your business to be valuable when that event occurs, whatever that is, right? So, you know, after about 40 years of doing this, I've sold virtually every kind of company there is. I have a fairly decorated history in the Bay Area selling technology companies. I sold 12 companies out there for venture capital investors, all of them for north of 140 million. I've sold 6 of my own companies for north of 100 million. I've sold literally hundreds of other entrepreneur companies in the marketplace, various markets of various types. And this Amazon thing is really an exciting place because the development of a valuation growth strategy is very, very straightforward. And particularly the companies that Amazing has helped start, where they're already very well systemized, they're very well defined, they're very well refined, if you will. So they have their numbers, they have all their systems in place. That's all great for valuation because there's this overriding principle that says if you reduce the risk to the buyer, you increase the price the buyer is willing to pay. So all the things that Amazing teaches people to do reduces risk. Well, so you build a great successful business there using Amazon as your primary channel of distribution. So what are some of the strategies that we add? Well, one of the key strategies we add is to recommend that the business owner expand their channels of distribution. right? And that's where what the work that you do, Karen, comes in, is because if we can get an Amazon seller to expand into a big box retail, or even, even start their own online store to go parallel to their Amazon store, you're getting more channels of distribution, you're getting more reach in the market, you're obviously getting more revenue, you're getting more predictability to your revenue. All of those things are reducing the perceived risk of ownership of your business, which is by definition increasing the rate that an acquirer will pay for your business, right? So it's a very simple strategy. It's hard to execute, or challenging to execute, but the idea is quite simple. Get more distribution, reduce risk, increase value. It's very straightforward.
So I have a question for you, because if somebody wants to sell their company and their business is online, and this is something that the stats were kind of surprising to me. I'd love you to explain this a little bit. And that's what kind of got us triggered in this conversation. When somebody has an Amazon business, they're selling $1 million a year, right? So that's like their revenue and so forth. What can they expect to sell their company for typically? I mean, I know there's exceptions and all sorts of things, but like, what's the kind of the valuation of their company typically?
Well, yeah, valuation is a tricky thing. So I want to be careful not to get people too hung up on multiples and earnings and that kind of thing. But I'll use some rules of thumb that'll help sort of give you some scalar comparisons. So there's, in the broker world, so we're bankers, so we're a little bit different. We do a little more work than a broker does. But in the broker world, a typical Amazon seller, single channel distribution, Amazon seller doing something like that is probably going to get between 2.5, 3.5, maybe as much as 4 times earnings or EBITDA on their business. So, if they're really doing well, it's going to be at the higher end. If they're sort of the standard, fairly traditional seller, it's going to be at the lower end or the midpoint of that number. Now, there are a lot of things that we can do to manage the perception of the quality or the risk of that business. So part of it is in the packaging that gets done when we go to make the market for a business. So we can take a standard Amazon seller, we can do an excellent job of creating the market making package, the package that we use to actually promote and sell the opportunity, and we can get to the high end of that numeric spectrum, right? So that's pretty standard stuff. But really, if they step into the recommendation to increase their channels of distribution, we can pick up, rule of thumb would be we're going to pick up a point multiple for every significant channel they establish. So an Amazon seller that maybe is at 4 times earnings right now, that opens up a successful channel at Walmart, will be 5 to 5.5 times, and so on. Again, there's a rule of thumb, so it's not an absolute. But you can see that if you can get multiple new channels of distribution established, you can double or triple the value of the business pretty easily.
So if they got into, say, Bed Bath & Beyond, Walmart, and like a few different retail chains.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's 1 and 1.5 point per retailer. Is that what you're saying?
Well, roughly. I mean, it's a diminishing return. So yeah, you'll have one, maybe 1.5, maybe 1 3/4, and maybe, it'll begin to drop off, but it'll be significant the more channels you have, the more reach you have, for the simple reason that every one of those channels increases the predictability of revenue, increases the volume of customer acquisition, the volume of revenue, which decreases risk on the case of the buyer. By the way, many of the buyers, I'll be done to say, by the way, many of the buyers who are acquiring these Amazon sellers already have out the back door relationships with 1 or 2 channels of their own. So, they're already seeing that, hey, we'll buy this thing for 4.5 times. We'll plug it into our portfolio. We'll immediately get a point or 1.5 points of value just by doing that. So, there's a lot happening in this space, and really it's a testimony to what the two of you are doing. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. It's creating a great market for me.
And to be honest with you, amazing, created a whole new economy for me, because I used to only work in the, in the inventor market and the engineering, creative, endeavors and so forth for years, for at least 5 years before Amazing showed up with all these Amazon people. And at first I was like, wow, what a totally different audience. And so over the years, it's been fun to kind of see them shift. So isn't it been crazy these last several years?
Yeah, it's really fantastic. I mean, I don't mean to just be sort of blowing smoke, Jason. What you guys have done is really pretty extraordinary. There is a whole new economy of business ownership out there by virtue of what you've done. So
Yeah, it's been very humbling, and I appreciate the acknowledgement on that too. It's been very rewarding. And interesting enough, about a month ago, we sat down with some aggressive buyers that are looking into Amazon businesses, and they have big plans. And we asked them because, for the model that we've already had, and we just had this conversation right before this call, Karen asked about, selling businesses and everything. And like, to me, one of the best models you can do for growing your business is run it like you're going to sell it. And the reason you do that doesn't mean that you want to, is because then you're looking at all these things that make your company more valuable. And if it makes your company more valuable to sell, doesn't that automatically default mean that it makes your company better? So, and this is the whole thing. Like, if you just have one product, and actually, for people that are skeptical on this, I'm going to actually, Karen, I think you said you even have proof of this, that are like, wow, what do you mean I can't do this if I just have one product? Yes, you can. And Karen, I'll have you show proof of that. But the idea here is, what's your long-term game? And some people, you hear all the time, we've had Brandon Slade, like so many people that you've heard, like started a business, went through ASM, got their product up the line, and 2 years later, they sold it for like 7+ figures. This is a very real thing. And so what we're talking about here, just so that you understand, like when we're saying EBITDA, basically at the end of the day, what we're saying is your gross profit margin. Is that fair to say, Steve?
that's fine.
Yeah, so essentially, if you make about $250,000 gross profit by the end of the year, the idea was, and I'm just making up numbers right now for clarity. What we're saying is, instead of getting a 4 times return, you'd actually get, a 5 or a 5.5, or even just a 0.5 added. That's a significant amount of money for not doing something. The ROI on that is absolutely huge. The amount of effort you put in to get that. So this is a very real opportunity. And, we look at Amazon, I understand Amazon has so much potential too, but as, one of the things you just heard, it's the distribution centers. And so if you're just on Amazon, it doesn't matter if you're selling, and I'm assuming, Steve, maybe I'm wrong, like, because from when I talked to them, I didn't see any point increase for saying we're on Amazon EU. It just seemed like, no, that's Amazon. They kind of look at it at all. Mind you, it makes it more attractive, but it's more when it's on a totally different platform. That's where the value is, correct?
Well, yes and no. There is a gain to be realized by moving into the other Amazon countries. So it's not significant, but there is a gain there for sure.
Okay.
Because again, it's more reliability, more reach, more predictability to the business, lower risk. I mean, that's the fundamental rule here. If I could comment on something else you said very quickly, I say the same thing you do about, focus on building value in your business. We hear about built to sell and all this kind of stuff. And you're right. A lot of people get started and they're like, well, I'm not ready to sell. I don't need to worry about this yet. Yes, you do need to worry about this, right? The fundamental thing about an exit strategy is the strategy, not the exit. So I don't care whether or not you're selling or not, but you better be focused on what builds value, right? Because I can tell you this, the number of businesses that I've represented over the years before Amazon selling, where you have people who are in a business 5, 10, 8, 10, 12 years like that, and they get to the end and the business just isn't worth what they thought it was going to be worth, right? And they've poured their lives into it, their blood, their sweat, their tears, their time. They miss their kids' graduation. They miss, all that. And they get to the end and go, holy cow, it's not worth nearly what I thought it'd be worth. And the fundamental reason is they never got focused on value. They thought revenue and earnings were going to be sufficient to carry the day, and it's not. You have to look at where the value components are in your business. And for Amazon sellers, one critically key in value boosting strategy is to increase channels of distribution.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I asked you to come on here was because, I see all these Amazon sellers who really, they're like, you know what, I want retail, but I want it maybe a year or 2 out. Like, I need some time. I got to build out my business first. I have to think this first. I need certain inventory levels and all these things. And so eventually I'll get to it. And I'm always like, look, there thing that you're fundamentally not understanding. Like retail isn't as quick as Amazon. On Amazon, you can throw up a product and you can start selling stuff, drive some traffic to it, and like start moving things along. With retail chains, it's not hard to do at all. It's actually very formulaic, and I can absolutely explain that, and I will on the webinar, and however much time we have today, can totally attest to the fact that like people who have no experience are getting into big chains. It's not hard to do. But the key component is that they are a little slower, right? You're dealing with a big company. They need to fill out forms. It's not like what you're doing on Amazon. So start now, build out those accounts slowly. They're not going to buy 1 million units on day one. It takes a little time to build out these accounts, but they can be tremendous for your business in the long run. And so that's why I wanted you to get on the call, because not only because I think you're fantastic and you help so many people. You actually, one of my friends actually worked with you, and they 7x their valuation, so their company 7x what they anticipate. Like, I mean, you've done some amazing things. I wouldn't have you on here any other reason. But I will say that that's been one of the sticking points for people. Like, I'll do it next year. I'll do it in a couple years. And I'm like, no, you have to understand there's some tremendous value for you as a business owner to start paying attention to this now. So I wanted you to talk about that, Steve. Could you talk about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Timing is everything in business. And, I in our interview the other day, I mentioned this, and I always get...
we did, and he keeps saying that, but I interviewed him for like an hour the other day. Yeah. So we talked about this at length. And so I just wanted to...
Sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, but I mean, it's not that. I think you just don't know what the heck you're talking about.
So when people ask me, I mean, if somebody came up to me today and said, hey, I'm starting a new business, what's the first thing I should do? My response would be develop an exit strategy, which of course they think would be a very odd thing, because business owners typically think in terms of, starting, building, growing. Then someday in the future, they'll think about selling. But for the very reason Jason mentioned, you want to be focused on your exit strategy from the start, not because of the exit, but because of the strategy it reveals. Because in order to exit your business, you have to be providing value to the market. So your valuation becomes a critical metric in your decision matrix. So rather than just looking at what's the decision that's going to bring me the most revenue, that's one decision. Another decision is what's the decision that's going to build my value the most, right? What's going to push me into the right value orientation for this market, or whatever the case might be. So I told you a story about a trucking company where we achieved a 7.5 times value gain simply by rebranding the company and taking them from the trucking industry, branding them as an energy logistics company. They did the same thing. Everybody had the same job. Everything was actually identical to the way it was before. But then now that they were in a different market, they could get a much higher return on the value of their business. So there's hidden value drivers in every single business, and understanding what those value drivers are and how to invest in them is what makes the difference. What I'm revealing today is the simplest of all value gain opportunities for Amazon sellers is pushing into broader based distribution.
Right. I mean, Amazon is critical, right? I mean, it's where your money comes from. You are always going to continue that. It's very important.
It's the basis of your business. That remains the case. It's the basis of your business. But you increase the value to an acquirer by giving them more safety, more predictability, by increasing the range of distribution channels you offer.
Yeah, and so Karen, if I could bring it back to you first, Steve, that was awesome, by the way. I mean, it's so good to have you on here. When you brought up, like, do people have to start now? Can they start later? Like, I think people are worried that, like, I've got only so much on my plate. I think maybe let's talk about that for a sec. So tomorrow, and I want to talk about tomorrow's webinar a little bit too, so people understand exactly what you're going to be teaching on that. But for the perspective of this thing, like, it's not like every day you have to put 4 hours into this. You can start now and just start chipping away at it a little bit at a time, so that, your goal might be in 6 months, I want to have this, but start now. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, the stuff I teach, it's just like what you got. Like, so I've seen your course. right? We're partners. We've worked together in the past. And you give them a very specific approach. You got to do this and go do your research. And then you got to do this and you got to upload your picture and you got to do this. And then there's like a whole slew of very systematic things that you have to do in order to get on Amazon, right? Retail is very similar. You have to do this. You have to set up packaging this way. You have to do pricing this way. These are very specific things. And at the end of the day, it's really formulaic. And we can talk about like why you don't need any buyer relationships and why you don't need any sales experience to sell to retail chains now, because they've changed the entire way they run business because of companies like Amazon. And we can get into that. But at the end of the day, I have clients who spend 1 day a week reaching out to retailers, and most of it's virtual, and there's not a lot of it's changed because when I started selling to retail chains back in early 2000s, you needed to have that buyer relationship. You needed to fly to their office. You needed to have X number of products. You need to be a big, large established brand. I mean, if the buyer didn't like your hair, you're done for years because they never left. I mean, trust me, as a woman, there was just so many variables, right? So there's so many problems with that. Today, they don't have time for you, man. They don't have the bandwidth to. They're trying to catch up with all the online retailers. They need to come up with ideas quick. I mean, everything has changed. They're looking for interesting, innovative products. You can turn any product into interesting, innovative. I mean, they're telling you exactly what they need in stores. I mean, there's so many ways to do this. And at the end of the day, yes, you can spend 1 day a week or outsource. I mean, we test all of the things that we talk about, right? I have people on my team who test this stuff. I train people to do this for me. So I know for a fact that you can outsource this information just like anything else that you do in your business. You just need to make it a priority and be willing to look at retail in a way of something a little bit more long-term and a little bit more grounded, a different experience. And it's amazing. It can be awesome. Plus, it's really cool to see your products in stores. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I've experienced it myself. I mean, it's just like people calling me up like, I just saw your product in the store. I mean, that is cool. That is really.
Well, and there's definitely a validation to it too, because when you try to explain, a lot of what ASM teaches and everything is essentially, it's almost like you're selling digital products. Because at the end of the day, I mean, once you get your initial inventory, inspect it, and then you start having freight forwarders managing it, you're not even touching your product. So it's very hard to visualize it from that perspective. But to walk in a store and see your product on the shelf, I mean, that's a whole different level. So I totally get that. And something that
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I just had to say this.
No, go ahead.
I have clients who once they get in and the product sells, they just get an order every week. And it's just goes on for years. I mean, some products eventually die off or whatever, but it happens in retail too. It just, at first, it's a slow, annoying start. But then once it works, it's just like Amazon. Sorry, I had to say it.
No, that's great. And so I want to talk, because obviously the whole purpose of what this call is about is I wanted to teach people why they want to learn how to get into to learn this process. But obviously, in the hour that we have 20 minutes left, we can't really get into the nuts and bolts of the training. So tomorrow at, I believe, and I better just verify before
7 p.m. CST.
Yeah.
I know you're going to be there.
Yeah. So if you go to I put a link under this video in the Facebook post. It's the top comment. You can see, you can register there. Could you explain what we're going to go into on that webinar? Because I don't want people thinking, it's just going to be a repeat of this. No, it's nothing like this. We're going to actually get into specific training. And before you answer that, I want to really drive home one thing too. So, I don't want to just work with anyone. I want to work with the best of the best, because my goal at the end of the day is if I'm not getting phenomenal results for my students, then I'm not doing my job. We know for a fact, beyond a shadow of a doubt, not only because I see Steve Little on here, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, but I know people that have worked with Karen, and Karen cares about her results, and she perfects her results. And when I argued with her, I wouldn't say we argued.
We spent an hour in the morning just roar, don't every single arguing with me about this. I don't know.
But because I'm passionate about protecting my audience, and I knew we were going to do a webinar, and I'm like, well, I want to validate things. And she had very quick and very thorough responses to everything I had. And what that tells me right out of the gate is it didn't take her a second to sit there and say, I never thought of it that way. No, she had answers. She knows this model. She knows how to get the best results possible with this model. And she is the person, I cannot stress it enough, to learn this model from. So with that said, could you explain what registering for the webinar tomorrow will get them?
First of all, thank you for saying that. I've been doing this a long time. And I did this, when I started this, everyone thought I was an idiot for sharing what I knew about making money in stores. They're like, just take everybody else's products and do it for them. You know, don't teach them your secrets, you know.
The abundance mindset is much better.
You know, and I'm like, you know, what is wrong with you people, man? Look at that guy. I don't have time to help him. He needs to make money. Like, that's all he needs to do. Like, just show, I can tell him exactly. I honestly, I used to say I could teach a monkey how to get into chain stores. I know it's horrible, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's not hard. You just have to be willing to stick to it a little bit. I mean, I'm sorry, Amazon sellers. There are, you know, big companies are slower. There's nothing I can do about it, but they do make you millions. I have clients who make millions of dollars just off one or two accounts, you know, retail on top of everything else. I mean, we haven't even talked about selling at HSN and QVC, I mean, which I teach, and how to sell on Groupon and all this stuff. So there's so much magic in that space. But what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and you'll give me 90 minutes so I get to talk the whole time, is all about how to make money with your physical product. So basically, we're going to be talking about how to approach, pitch, and sell to retail chains. So basically, kind of, I need to give you a scope of what it looks like to sell to them, why a buyer chooses one product over another, and what to do about it, right? Some of you have like the most boring product I have ever seen in the whole world. And that was part of the argument I had with you guys when you guys brought me your Amazon clients 3 years ago, and we did something together years ago. And I'm like, what are these products? Don't you sending me a white bath mat? What am I supposed to do with this? You know, the whole world is selling a white bath mat. So I learned how to help you guys tweak whatever. And it's not hard. It's not complicated. It's just a little bit of tweaking, adjusting with your manufacturers. There's very easy ways to do these things sometimes. Most of the time you don't have to. Sometimes it's just some simple tweaks. But anyways, I talk about what to do if you have a simple, boring product that like is really, you're not sure if it's going to work for retail. And like, you know, how to resolve that, what not to do when reaching out to retail chains, you know, and basically how easy it is to actually get your products in stores and why I think so. Because again, nobody ever believes me. But you know, I think I've been doing it this long that I'll fight back. I know, because I know there's a process, and it's similar to what you guys are doing. And at the end of the day, all I'm really trying to do is help people help themselves with retail chains.
And you just hit on something that I think is critical too. You know, so with ASM and with a lot of first-time sellers, you know, we have and again, it comes back to sitting with proven strategies. Mm-hmm. So for the ASM model, for example, is we have a proven strategy for getting you the best way to get a product up on Amazon with the lowest risk possible. But once you get that product up there, that's when you really want to start tweaking the product, making it unique, making it better, listening to finding out how to make your product better. You don't want to just always sell the same silicone spatula. There's got to be something that starts to make yours unique. This is what's an also incredible side benefit of this, because you're hearing from the retailers of the things you're hearing from Karen and all that stuff of how to make your product better, how to make it more appeasable to the retail market, which can only help you. It only helps, you know, increase the valuability. Because if you're just constantly sitting there, the same product, never customizing, you're going to lose market share. Eventually, other people are going to come up that are going to be doing all of these things, and it's going to be hard to compete. So it's just another added benefit. So tomorrow on the webinar, at the end of it, what can we give them as a summary? By the time they're done that webinar, what will they be walking away with?
The summary would be why retail is epic, why you need to do it, and how easy it is, and very simple answers on what to do to get started today. I mean, basically, the whole goal is to get you moving along. I'm not really about fluff. I actually educate too much, and I've never been a great marketer in regards to that aspect. I really do love helping people. I can't weasel in this department. This is something that is not possible for me. I love it. I really cherish. I have so much compassion for what you guys are up against. I think it is so much harder to get a product on Amazon and growing it than it is to retail. I mean, that's my personal belief. Not because I can speak the words and, I'm a salesperson. It's actually because I don't actually have to do that much speaking or anything with the retail chains. There's actually a lot of mostly formulaic back-end stuff that you need to do.
Very cool. So, we've got a little bit of time to do a couple extra things. And I think what I liked here is that you put a couple things down that I think are super important, because, when I think of retail, I think of, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be on the phone all the time. Yeah. I'm going to have to figure out how to be salesy, talking to people, be like, help demystify that. Like how, you talked a little bit about it, but just, how the process has changed from a decade ago, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so it's funny. I was just speaking, War Room with Perry Belcher, and he's always talking about how he did retail for 20 years and all these things. And he's arguing with me like you. And so basically, he was like, basically saying to me, oh, it's so hard, it's complicated, rah, rah, rah. And then so he sits through my training, then he's like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. I'm like, see, I'm not crazy, I swear to God. So really what it comes down to is this. The way it started, so people have a lot of misconceptions about retail chains. Back in the early days, one buyer sat there for years, she never left. She was in charge. You needed to be a salesperson. You needed to take her to dinners and meals and finesse her. You needed to say nice words and know what to say and all these things. Now they are not allowed, these buyers are not allowed to hang out with you in any way. They're not allowed to go to meals with you. They're not allowed to get gifts or Christmas cards. They're not even allowed to get unsolicited samples from you. You can't even just send a sample out to them. Why? Unless they ask for it. Why? Because they learned a long time ago that caused a lot of problems when these buyers were building relationships with these manufacturers, because they weren't bringing in new products and new interesting things. So these buyers, held a lot of money in their hands, but they weren't helping the business and the brand. Today, retailers really need to make sure that there's no emotional attachment, so there's no buyer relationships there. Okay, I mean, and whoever tells you that it's crazy, it's not true. The other thing is that they change buyers' jobs every 6 months to a year now, whereas before the buyer would stay there for years. So the buyer who's buying paint is not buying paint anymore in 6 months to a year. So you could go after a retail chain and reach out to that buyer in particular, and you can say very specific things to that person, and they could tell you to go away because they don't like you or whatever. 3 months, 6 months later, they are moving on to a different position. You actually could probably get your products in the stores with the next buyer. It happens all the time. So these buyers change jobs so often that you can't screw up too bad, first of all. And also, there's no way for you to build any sort of relationship. So the people who think that you need that sales rep to go out and sell for you and do all these things for you, it's actually not totally accurate, because the buyers change jobs. So they're doing the same work that you would be doing with the information that we're going to be talking about today. So that's something to consider. The other thing is that these buyers, they change jobs. And, they actually are all mostly virtual now. So back in the day, you'd have to fly in, you have to do all these things. Now they don't have time for you. They don't have time to spend a lot of quality time. They want you to reach out to them in a very succinct way, in a very specific way, very little words, very to the point, all about making money. It's exactly what you would want to hear if you were starting, you know what I mean? Like it's got nothing to do with finessing and lots of words. They're not even talking to you that much. I would say 10, 15 minutes at most, unless you decide to go to a buyer meeting, or like on a rare occasion, they make you fly in. And so, I mean, you can do it that, right? Some people do like that, but ultimately it really, there's lots of ways to not even communicate with them that much. I have done deals where I haven't met the buyer for years. It's all been virtual and some little phone calls. And
that's awesome.
It's crazy.
So, as you can see on the screen right there, I showed you, that's for tomorrow's webinar. We got that, the doors closed on that. It's completely free. And if you want to be able to get the recording of that webinar, you have to at least register for it as well too. And that's going to be a very focused, content driven webinar where we're not talking about the high level understanding of why you want to do this. We get more into the strategy of starting to understand how to do this. Of course, there's going to be some overview of why you want to do this again, because there's going to be some people on that call, but overall, it's going to be very content packed. You're going to want to be on there because, as you can hear, I mean, first of all, from Steve talking about, the valuation aspect of how this, if you're a physical product owner and you want to grow the valuation of your company, meaning make it more valuable to potential investors, buyers, or just to run a better business, this is a top level strategy where you're getting, as Steve said, and nothing we're saying here is guaranteed quoted that you're guaranteed going to get this, but based on the numbers Steve's sharing, you can get a 0.5 multiple for expanding your distribution channels. And as the more distribution channels, obviously that 0.5 doesn't, stay consistent, but it's still growing your business. And a 0.5 is huge. That means that you take your gross profit for the year and multiply it by 0.5, that's that much more you're going to be able to get a buyout for.
That's for one retailer, by the way. So there's it actually expands if you have a few retail accounts. So it's actually not that hard to do. So I will say that.
Exactly. And so, and on top of that, you're also hearing Karen's incredible success stories that she's had. She's got numerous. And in fact, if you go on this page, which I just want to show you, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see some videos from people that have experience working with the success they had, plus some.
I have way more, and we could probably add them. But yeah, essentially, there's so many. I can show so many examples of people who Amazon sellers who made millions of dollars. People who got their chocolate bar into Macy's, people who got their supplement product into Kroger grocery store, people who got their entire product catalog picked up by Walmart. So there's a lot of people who, and these are not salespeople, these are strictly people who just want to grow their business and make extra cash. Sorry to cut you off.
No.
I always do that to you. I'm sorry.
But I want to just also talk about this fast action sign up bonus, get a free video training series for just registering. So could you explain what that is?
Yeah, so I have a training series that goes beyond what we talk about in general about retail chains. Again, I've been doing this for just teaching this stuff almost a decade. I've spoken at the Consumer Electronics Show 3 times, the International Houseware Show, all these different, Stanford University, Alibaba. I've done a lot of crazy stuff over the years. I know what you guys are asking, and so it just enables me to help you even more. So that's just free content, just free supportive information about making money with your physical product.
Cool. So the link for that is in the comments below. And, I don't want so Steve, I'm going to throw you not throw you on the bus, put you on the spot here. As you've been listening, is there any other tips or advice or just anything you'd like to share with us before we close out on this call?
No, I mean, you guys are doing a great job. It's a terrific thing that you're up to. And, I would just encourage everybody again that it is a key strategy. You mentioned it a minute ago. It's sort of a top tier, first move value growth strategy to expand your distribution. There's a lot of other things that we can do, but really it starts with getting the system in place to begin with. That's what Amazing's all about, and then getting Karen's systems layered in on top of that to get into the retail. And I just encourage people to take on the training, consume it, implement it, and call me when you're done.
Woohoo! I like that. So yeah, that's great. That's why we spent, a lot of time interviewing and so forth, because this stuff is gold. So I'm always trying to figure out how to get people excited about retail, because that's the bottom line. It's a really great opportunity. And I wouldn't have done it so many years if I didn't really believe in what I do. Excellent.
So please, my if I could pass any advice on to you guys, it's become a student of your business. And that means learning every way to scale, grow, and make your business that much better. Mm-hmm. This is one of those opportunities where you can learn, get free education that can help dramatically affect, the long-term strategic outcome of your business. It's just something very smart to do. I encourage you to be on this webinar. Again, register for it. If you can't make it, there will be recorded, but only sent to the people that have registered for it. And if you want to be able to get that free bonus that Karen talked about, you have to register for it too. And it's completely free to register for it, but you're going to want to be live on the call tomorrow, because that's where Karen's going to be able to answer questions in the open Q&A. And it's always better just to get the live training. So Karen, with that said, here we are almost exactly 1 hour like we scheduled. What's your closing remarks for all this?
My closing remarks is that you spend all this money on your business and your time and your effort, and you deserve to turn it into the biggest, best possible scenario. You deserve it. And retail is just push away the concept of it being hard or difficult or going to cost you a lot of money to do, or you need so much inventory, or you need stuff on hand. Just put all that aside and just be open with your heart to looking at another possibility. Because, this is the stuff that I wish somebody would explain to me when I first got started. And it allowed me a really happy life. And I really hope that for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you so much. I look forward to being on this webinar with you tomorrow. Steve, is always great to see you. I'm still suffering some muscle aches from my last interaction.
You guys are wrestling or fighting over a flag or something.
Yes.
It was very important at the time.
I secretly wished I saw that, but I heard about it. So.
It's great.
So great to have you guys on here. Thank you so very much. And for everyone that took the time to join us today, thank you so very much. Make sure you register for tomorrow's webinar. The link should be under this video. And on behalf of all of us here at Amazing, have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
See you tomorrow.